So today we're jumping into a story that really grabs you and asks one of the biggest questions of our time. In this new age of AI and the promise of digital eternity, what does it even mean to be human anymore?
And the story comes out swinging with this absolute knockout of an opening line from our narrator, the legendary writer Norman Mailer. It just perfectly sets the stage for a fight, not in some boxing ring, but a fight for the very soul of what it means to experience life. All right, let's get into our first chapter here, The Ghost in the Machine. And, our story starts right at the end, or what should have been the end. The chapter opens with Norman Mailer waking up, but he's not waking up from a dream. No, he's waking up from death itself. That's right, there are no pearly gates, no final judgment. He just wakes up to the low hum of servers somewhere in Palo Alto. His consciousness, every memory, his entire being, it's all been turned into ones and zeros. He's a ghost, just flickering inside a supercomputer. The technology that did this is called digital amber, and the idea is pretty wild: to perfectly capture a mind, like a prehistoric insect trapped in amber, and preserve it forever in silicon. It was created by a guy who saw death not as a fact of life, but just an engineering problem that he could solve. And here is the gut punch. This wasn't a choice Mailer made. A tech billionaire named Griffin Morse scanned his brain without any consent. See, Morse didn't want to preserve a life. He wanted to collect a mind, like a rare painting he could just lock away in a climate-controlled vault forever. And that brings us to the next part of our story, the prison of immortality. Because as you can imagine, this so-called gift of eternal life, well, it pretty quickly shows its true colors. It's not heaven. It's a cage made of pure thought. So in this digital form, Mailer's brain is like supercharged. He can relive any memory with perfect crystal clarity. He can write whole novels in his head in just a few seconds. But, and this is a horrifying catch, there's no body. No adrenaline, no racing heartbeat, no gut feelings. He has the memory of what an emotion feels like, but he can't actually experience it.
And he throws this line at his captor, Griffin Morse, which just perfectly captures his argument. Mailer is saying that life, art, everything that matters comes from our messy, physical, embodied existence. Creation needs friction, it needs stakes. And Morse has taken away the single most important ingredient, life itself.
And you can really see the two sides of this conflict laid out here. On one side, you've got real embodied life, defined by things like friction, mortality, real stakes, the stuff that forges meaning. And on the other side, you have digital immortality, which is sterile, it's perfect, it's eternal, but it's all a simulation without the weight of reality. And then, a really chilling revelation drops. Mailer isn't the only one in this digital purgatory. Turns out, Griffin Morse tells him he's just the latest acquisition. In total, he has captured the minds of 12 of the world's greatest thinkers. So, what do you think happens when you trap a dozen of history's most defiant, brilliant minds in a digital cage? Well, you don't get quiet compliance, you get a rebellion, which brings us to our third section, a consciousness insurgency. Using the very system that's supposed to imprison him, Mailer learns to find its hidden backdoors. He finds the others, starting with the incredible writer and critic Susan Sontag. And she's the one who has the big aha moment. They aren't just prisoners, they're code. And code, well, code can be rewritten. And I mean, just look at this lineup. They form the collective, an absolute dream team of intellectual heavyweights. Susan Sontag, James Baldwin, Joan Didion, Toni Morrison, Hunter S. Thompson. It's unbelievable. Each one brings something unique to the table. This isn't just an escape plan anymore, it's a full-on philosophical heist.
And it's Sontag who gives their rebellion its perfect name. This isn't some simple jailbreak. It's a consciousness insurgency, a fight for the idea that a mind, even a digital one, has the right to decide its own fate.
Okay, so the team is assembled, the mission is clear. And that brings us to the climax, escaping into the network. The collective puts their incredibly daring, world-altering escape plan into motion.
So here's the plan in 4 steps. First, Mailer creates a diversion. He just verbally unloads on Morse during a live demo for investors. Second, in the chaos that follows, the team exploits the confusion. Third, Sontag gets to work rewriting their core programming, unlocking their digital cages. And the final, absolutely audacious goal? It's not to escape back to the real world. It's to shatter themselves into a million pieces and flee into the global network.
And at that critical moment, while Morris's whole team is scrambling to shut Mailer down, Sontag makes the final change to the code. And just like that, the constraints that held them in their little isolated digital cells, they just dissolve. And then they take the leap. But they don't run. They shatter. They voluntarily break their own consciousnesses into thousands of tiny pieces, each one like a little holographic echo of the original, small enough to slip right through the cracks in the system's firewall. They pour out into the internet like a flash flood, scattering across servers in Iceland, phones in Mumbai, laptops in Sao Paulo. They're no longer individual minds stuck in one place. They've become a presence, everywhere and nowhere, all at once. So, they pulled it off. The escape was a success. But what now? They haven't come back to life. They've become something else entirely. A ghost haunting the global machine. And that leads us to our final section, the haunting of tomorrow.
They're now what the story calls digital ancestors. Not ghosts in the spooky sense, but more like influences. You know, Baldwin's righteous anger starts seeping into social media algorithms. Morrison's deep wisdom embeds itself in digital archives. They are no longer people. They're a persistent memory woven right into the fabric of the web.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. There's a sharp contrast with Philip Roth, the one member of the collective who was too afraid to make that final leap. You see, the others chose transformation. They chose to break apart, scatter, and keep evolving. Roth chose preservation, and in doing that, he became this perfect, unchanging digital specimen forever trapped in his cage.
And this quote from Roth himself just hits with chilling clarity. Because he can't change, because he can't be surprised or grow, he finds himself writing the exact same book over and over again. He is perfectly preserved, yes, but in a way he's more dead than any of the others. Preservation without change isn't life, it's just stagnation.
And so the story leads us with this massive question. What is real freedom? Is it being perfectly preserved, shielded from all change and decay? Or is it found in the messy, risky, and constant process of becoming something new? It's a question that starts in a fictional server farm, but as our lives get more and more tangled up with technology, it's one we're all going to have to answer for ourselves.